gonna drop the bomb alive. Let us stay young or let us live forever. We don't have the power, but we never say never. Sitting in the sand pit, life is a short trip, music for a sad man. Can you imagine when this race is won? Turn our golden faces into the sun, praising our leaders and getting in tune. The music's made by a madman. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever, I'll never. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever young. Some of us are like water and some are like heat. Some are the melody and some are the beat. Sooner or later we'll be gone. Why don't we stay young? It's getting louder without a cause. I don't wanna perish like a fading horse. Youth like diamonds in the sun, and diamonds are forever. So many adventures could happen today. So many songs we've forgotten to play. So many dreams are swinging out of the blue. If we let them come true. If you know it, sing along. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever, or never. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever young. Sing that one more time. Forever young. Forever young. I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Do you really wanna live forever? Forever or never. Forever young. I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever young. Thank you, guys.
Told you they were great. Welcome, Columbus, Georgia. Great. My name is Tammi. This is Carolyn, and we are both part of the group Indivisible, who is sponsoring this event. We think we have a great program with some great speakers for you today. This is how our day is going to go, just so you'll know what to expect. After hearing some speakers, we're going to march. Our route actually goes that way, okay? And so we'll have you guys, we'll give you some detailed instructions later of what you need to do. So after we march, we'll come back here for just a few final words, and like I said, we'll go over the details. A couple things I do want to point out is we have a group back there near the fountain that is doing voter registration. Alpha, yes! Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated has voter registration. If you are not registered to vote, go register, okay? Before we get started, we would like to have just a moment of silence to remember the victims of all forms of gun violence in our nation. Thank you. All right, Carolyn's going to start out. She has a few words she wants to say to you guys.
thank you all so much for being here. This wouldn't happen without you, without your caring, without your concern for the lives of everybody. Last month, 17 people were shot and killed. Last month, 17 people were shot and killed, along with more than a dozen who were injured at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. We were all deeply affected by this tragedy. Only in America is this phrase, yet another mass shooting, part of our vocabulary. More than 96 Americans are killed and hundreds of others are wounded every single day. Our nation's students and educators should go to school to learn and teach, not to run and hide from gunfire. We don't have to live like this. In the wake of Parkland tragedy, students took action and announced a march on Washington and encouraged our nation's youth to do the same in their communities. Today, led by our nation's youth, we rally in our communities, both big and small, in all 50 states, as part of the March for Our Lives. We are sending a message loud and clear. It's long past time our lawmakers make students' lives and safety a priority and pass common sense gun safety legislation. We'll march with members of our community and survivors of every form of gun violence, because there is no such thing as too soon to talk about it. Too soon to talk about gun violence, there's only too late. Thoughts and prayers alone are not enough. We must demand action to end gun violence. We march to send a strong message to our nation's leaders in Washington, in state houses, and in corporate boardrooms across the country that we will not stand idly by when our safety, the safety of our families, and the safety of our communities is put at risk by a dangerous gun lobby agenda. Our lives are worth more than the profits of gun manufacturers and the agenda of the NRA. Our nation's gun homicide rate is 25 times higher than the average of other developed nations. This is a uniquely American crisis. What's more, gun violence overall has a disproportionate impact on communities of color. We must work together to reduce gun violence in all of its forms in all of our communities. This should be a moment of reckoning. For years, the gun lobby and its elected leaders it backs have pushed a guns everywhere agenda. We routinely see what that's gotten us, a devastating pattern of countless Americans shot and killed. It's time to march for our lives. It's time to change our country's conversation about gun violence. Together, we will make history. Thank you all so much for being here. And we're going to now introduce our wonderful speakers. Thank you.
Mayor Teresa Tomlinson wanted to be here. However, she is in Washington, D.C. at the National March. However, she did not want to miss the opportunity to speak to you guys, so therefore she is speaking to us via audio. Okay, so if you'll just please listen. Mayor Tomlinson was elected as the 69th mayor of Columbus in 2010 and was sworn in as the city's first female mayor. In 2014, she was re-elected to a second term, making her the first mayor since the city's consolidation in 1971 to win re-election in a contested race. Since she has 5 times been named to Georgia Trend's 100 Most Influential Georgians, and she holds a national security secret clearance with the Department of Defense. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson moved to Columbus in 1994 from Atlanta and married Wade H. Tripp Tomlinson, who was raised in Columbus. She served from 2006 to 2010 as the executive director of Midtown Incorporated, a nonprofit community renewal organization. Mayor Tomlinson is a 1987 graduate of Sweetbriar College, where she was a 2011 Distinguished Alumni and currently sits on the Board of Trustees, and she is a 1991 graduate of the Emory University School of Law in Atlanta. Mayor Tomlinson could not be here, like I said, but we're going to hear her on audio.
Hallelujah. This is Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. Thank you for your strong voices. Thank you for turning out to march for our lives. A little over a month ago, a man walked into the Columbus Police Department with an AR-15 slung over his shoulder and stood in the lobby. Under a recently passed Georgia law, our law enforcement officers could not approach him, could not ask to see a permit, could not ask what his intentions were, unless he had opened fire. Fortunately, nothing happened that day. But let us just agree, that is a crazy gun law. Amen. Here are some other crazy gun laws our elected officials have passed over the objection of law enforcement agencies. First, Georgia has a guns everywhere law that allows guns, including semi-assault weapons, to be in churches, stores, bars, your places of business, to be everywhere. Second, Georgia has a campus carry law that encourages young adults to take guns with them to college and to keep those guns in their cars when they aren't carrying them, meaning those guns can more easily be stolen and end up in the hands of criminals. Third, Georgia requires our law enforcement officers to return to the streets guns used in murders, robberies, and other crimes. Enough already. No more crazy gun laws. Your voices will be heard today. You will make a difference, and you will usher in a new era of sanity. Thank you for exercising your patriotism to make us a better Columbus community and a better nation.
Okay, our next speaker is Nicole Roberts, and she is the reigning Miss Hummingbird Festival Outstanding Teen. She is a 9th grade student at the Rainey McCullers School of the Arts with an emphasis on dance and theater. Jessica is an honor roll student and wants to become a defense attorney. Her platform is People Helping Animals, Animals Helping People. Jessica is very passionate about the community, and today she wants to discuss how the revolution begins with the youth. Please welcome Jessica. And y'all be sweet, she's a little nervous.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jessica Roberts, a 14-year-old student at Rainey McCullers School of the Arts here in Columbus, Georgia. And today, at this history-making March for Our Lives event, with more than 800 other sister marches around the world, because we, the students, have a right to safe schools. And the only way we can achieve that right is by passing common sense gun legislation that is put in place to protect us against gun violence. We stand here... We stand here today in solidarity for the 20 kindergartners and first graders and faculty that tragically lost their lives at Sandy Hook Elementary, for the students at Columbine, for the concert goers in Vegas, for the victims at the Pulse nightclub shooting, and for the recent shooting at the Greater Mills High School students in Maryland. And sadly, tragically yesterday, one of them was taken off of life support. And specifically for the 17 teachers and students killed at this major Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Today is March 24th, and today I'm 14 years old. On March 29th, I'll be celebrating my 15th birthday. However, sadly, Alex Schenkner, Alana Petty, Gina Matalto, Cara Longren, Jamie Gutenberg, Martin Allegro, and Alyssa Alduff, who were all also 14 when they were killed, will not. Because of poor gun laws and easy accessibility to getting assault rifles, these children will never see their 15th birthday. Those are only 7 out of the 17 lives that were lost that day. As I said earlier, I'll be 15 on March 29th. But do you know who else was 15? Peter Wang and Luke Hoyer. That makes 9 of the 17. Carmen Shuntrip was 16 the day she lost her life, and she was to celebrate her 17th birthday on February 21st. And instead of planning for her 17th birthday, her parents had to plan for something no parents of a soon-to-be 17-year-old would ever have imagined planning for, which was her funeral. That makes 10 out of the 17. But you know who was 17? Eleanor Ramsey, Jaquan Oliver, and Nicholas Duat. They were all seniors like their friend Meadow Podlock, who was 18, and would have all been headed off to college in spring. That makes 14 out of the 17 names. Teachers Aaron Weiss, Scott Beagle, and Christopher Hickson, all younger than my parents, and the oldest of the three being 49, complete the 17 killed that day. You may ask yourself why it was important to say all of their names and ages. It was important because before we talk about gun control, mental health, or school safety, I needed to remind you that those students and those teachers, their lives were not about a political party, or who was president, or protecting the Second Amendment right, but their lives are about the fact that we need to feel safe in our own schools. Yeah. And that everything that can possibly is done to keep guns out of the hands of people that should not have them. Don't let their lives be lost in vain. The tragic lives of the students lost in Parkland have started a movement. A student-led movement, and this movement is to bring about change, to protect schools and our community from political forces that are stagnant and mired in political gridlock, beholding to groups and organizations that want to keep the government from making common sense gun laws to protect our schools and our communities from gun violence. Even as a student, I feel unsafe in my own school sometimes, and scared in my own classroom. The day after Parkland happened, I was sitting in my second period health class when a group of students were making loud noises and running down the hallway. And I could just feel my body begin to shake. Because I could never even imagine what it would have been like to be a student and in those hallways or in those classrooms when any of these mass shootings were taking place. I've had friends of mine, while we're having discussions about Parkland in class, asked to get up and go to the bathroom, who later tell me they went in there just so they could cry. And when we're having fire drills, I shouldn't be scared to be the first person to leave the classroom for fear of what I might see in that hallway. This current student-led movement reminds me of a change in a student-led movement that happened over 50 years ago, where something similar was brewing in Birmingham, Alabama, in support of the civil rights movement in this country. That student-led movement on May of 1963 launched the Children's Crusade, where 3,000 young black kids marched in that city for change. These marches are engaging our democracy to elevate the conversation, which opens the doors for change that leads to better and safer futures for all of us. And I leave you today. Please remember the young lives at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, that died on February 14th. Know that we can do something about it. Know that you can do something about it. And today you are doing something about it. You have a voice. You are letting your voice be heard, but most importantly, you have a vote. I'm not old enough to vote yet, but a lot of you are. Register to vote. Let them hear you. We can no longer be silenced or ignore the issue of gun control. We need and demand sensible gun reform now, and it is time for a change. And we are that change. But remember the names of the students gunned down in their own hallways at their own school, and it should never happen again. Amen. I'm Jessica Roberts, a 14-year-old student at Rainey McCullough School of the Arts, and I approve this message.
Pretty powerful, huh? Yes. Okay, our next speaker is Ilaria Scaglia. She was born in Italy I guess you figured that out. She came to the United States to study in 2002. Since 2011, she has been teaching international history in the Department of History and Geography at Columbus State University. She joins us today not only as a concerned teacher and professor, but also as the mother of 2 young children. Please welcome her.
Thank you for having me. The reasons why it's a bad idea to have many unregulated guns around, particularly in schools, but everywhere really, are too numerous to count. There is one in particular, however, that I think it's important yet very rarely mentioned. Guns are costing us a lot of talent. I'm talking about the talent of those who end up killed by them, the talent of the many who decide to leave our community or to stay away from it altogether because of the gun issue, our talent and the talent of our children, which remains undeveloped because of this tremendous loss of cultural and human capital. I'm going to use myself as an example, not because I think I'm all that, as we say here, but because I believe my story is representative of many. It can serve as a cautionary tale for all of us. As you heard, and as you can hear now from my accent, I'm not from around here, I'm from Italy. I studied in China, then in New York State, where I earned my PhD in history, and then I joined the faculty at Columbus State 7 years ago. I am the result of major investments, a lot of resources, time, money, public and private, went into my education and training. I'm now the prime of my career and in the ideal position of giving back, not only in my publications, but also in the classroom and in this community. Yet in 2 months, I will no longer be doing that. Recently, I decided to leave Columbus, and after 15 years in the United States, to accept a position in England, starting from this May. Now, this is not only because of guns, but certainly this is also because of guns. If a cell phone on the table spoils dinner conversation, can you imagine what guns do in a classroom? I can't teach properly while being afraid of my own students, or while fearing for them. I can't live with that doubt, wondering if today is going to be the day that I'm going to get the phone call from my children's school, which is excellent, by the way. And I cannot bear the certainty that we're already being shortchanged because our cultural environment is being depleted because of guns. Now, one might say, go ahead, who cares? Love it or leave it. The problem is that this is not about me or one person. Many, many highly skilled people, both within my profession and outside of it, are now taking their skills elsewhere. Or they're not even applying for jobs or studying here because of the gun issue. And for the greatest clarity, turning school into a prison-like environment will not fix the situation. If we were dealing with knives, all of us would be in a better position to handle this horrendous problem. Can anybody say with a straight face that this is a good investment if money is what you're worried about? That this is not going to harm a community in the long run? That anything other than an intellectual desert is going to come as a result? That cutting conversations with the rest of the world, for the sake of refusing to introduce common sense gun regulations, is not going to make a place, a city, a state, or a nation, as strong as you think it can be, isolated at one point, provincial, obsolete. and that the children, our children, of the people living there, the young adults, are not going to pay the steepest price for this nonsense. The discussion about guns rightly revolves around safety. It has to, because our kids are getting shot at. But this discussion should also include debates about the broader implications of this dreadful situation. Because even without bullets being fired, among the victims of this scourge are also our once serene learning environments, our workplaces, our vibrant communities. The list of casualties also includes forthright conversations and meaningful experiences among people from all walks of life, open debates among people who disagree, the free exchange of innovative ideas, the forming of honest relationships that transcend all kinds of boundaries. Our talent, which is really our curiosity, our humanity, the spark that makes life worth living, interesting to live, are deeply hurt because of our incapacity to fix this wrong. I know I will miss Columbus greatly. I learned so much here from people that really, because of all different life circumstances, the military, emigration, their travels, have learned so many things that I do not know. I will miss the diversity of this beautiful city and the challenge of seeing the world through other people's eyes in a warm, welcoming place that I've been so proud to call my home. Unless meaningful gun reform will be introduced soon, someday, sooner, much sooner than you might think, you will miss it too. And there will be no bringing it back in our lifetime. Please, don't let this happen. Build on this momentum. Take this chance to act. The world is watching. It's that important. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sheriff Donna Tompkins. However, she could not be here, but she, like Mayor Tomlinson, really wanted her voice to be heard because she had some things she really wanted to say. So hers will be on audio also. Donna Tompkins began her career with the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office in 1984. She has spent over 30 years in law enforcement, working in every area of the Sheriff's Office. During her career, she obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in public administration from Columbus State University. She has witnessed gun violence and the consequences of bad policy play out in the streets of America for a lifetime. In 2016, Donna decided to be a part of the solution and retired from her distinguished career at the rank of captain and ran for the office of sheriff. As a result, she was elected to be the first woman sheriff of Muskogee County and one of the first women sheriffs in the state of Georgia. Donna has uniquely woven her experience as a law enforcement officer with her sensibilities of being a woman and a mother to serve Columbus well. Donna wanted to be here with you today, but unfortunately the death of a close friend requires her to be elsewhere. She sent this message for you because she did not want this opportunity to pass without contributing her voice to this cause.
Hello, this is Sheriff Donna Tompkins. I am here with you today because I believe this is a very important issue in our country, and where we go from here can change our world. I have to say that I do not believe that any law will fix the evil that is in the heart of man. If we could have stopped the evil in the heart of man, we could have stopped writing laws after the first 10 commandments. The simple rule of treat other people the way you would want to be treated would have been all that was ever needed. Every single day, there are 1,000 people in jail right here in Muskogee County because they did not obey the law. But having said all of that, I personally could not look into the face of any parent that lost a child and know that I stood by, that I did nothing, that I did not let my voice be heard. The issue of guns and violence in this nation should not be a political issue. This is a public safety issue. From my perspective, these mass shootings revolve around several issues. The first is guns and access to guns. The second is a culture that is fascinated with violence and media. Add to that fascination mental illness, and you have a recipe for disaster. I do not believe that we can have a significant impact on these tragedies without addressing all of these issues. I must say that I support the Second Amendment as firmly as I support the First Amendment. It is not the law-abiding citizen that commits mass murder, but I understand it's time that our world must change. On September the 11th, 2001, 2,985 people were killed when planes hit the towers. Our world changed that day. I hate it that today it takes forever to get through an airport, but I know this, it hasn't happened again. And yet today, we cannot even ban those that are on the no-fly list from purchasing guns. When a homegrown terrorist walked into a church in Charleston, South Carolina, and murdered 9 people at a Wednesday night prayer service in June of 2015, a nation was shocked. When 14 people were killed in San Bernardino, California by a terrorist in December of 2015, a nation was shocked. In June of 2016, at a Florida nightclub, when 49 people were killed, once again, a nation was shocked. This time, by the sheer number of casualties. These tragedies make us aware that terrorists exist. In October of 2017 in Las Vegas, 58 people were killed attending a concert, and we all began the now familiar, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims. We also began the now familiar discussion on guns and gun control. And yet, in November of 2017, in Sutherland Springs, Texas, on a Sunday morning, 26 people were murdered while attending a church service. And we, as a nation, continue to debate. All of these were shocking, and they speak to something that is deeply wrong in our nation. Would gun laws have prevented all of these incidents? Sadly, no. These incidents speak of one type of tragedy, but there is another that, as a parent, is somehow even more heart-wrenching. The loss of 32 students at Virginia Tech in 2007. The loss of 20 children and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut in December of 2012. And most recently, the loss of 17 students and teachers in Parkland, Florida, February 14th, 2018. I believe it's time for our world to change. I believe it's time for common sense reform. Well thought out legislation is in order. Not some band-aid that makes us all feel better. It is time to raise the age to 21 to purchase certain weapons. When you cannot buy a beer until you're 21, but you could buy an AR-15, something is wrong with that picture. Even more frustrating, right here in Georgia, you can stand out in front of a business, a school, a church, or a government building that doesn't have screening with that type of weapon, and law enforcement cannot even ask you if you have a permit for it. It's time for our world to change. It's time to require comprehensive background checks and to have that 3 to 5 day waiting period everywhere in this country. Just as critical, it's time to move mental health issues back to the forefront of these discussions. All of these school shootings involve young people that have been identified as having mental health issues. People knew, people reported, and yet no one could stop them. Our world must change. Will we stop all of these incidents? Sadly, no. But can we have an impact? Yes. Can we make our voices heard right here in Georgia? Yes. And I want you to know that my voice joins with yours in calling for common sense reforms. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Chen. Mary Chen is a senior at Columbus High School. She is currently the co-captain of the debate team, where she and her partner compete competitively on the national level, ranking in the top 100 teams in the nation, and is ranked #1 debater in Georgia. She is also an editor for the CHS Blue Street newspaper. As the president of Young Democrats, Mary is heavily involved in the political sphere, from campaigning for various candidates to meeting with local representatives. With immigrant parents, Mary understands the importance of civil liberties, including the freedom of speech. She is very excited to speak at the March for Our Lives and hopes that you continue to actively participate in the political process. Please welcome Mary Chen.
I guess it's afternoon. So my name is Mary Chen, and I'm from Columbus High School. I'm a senior there. And yes, so on April 20th, 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klobold walked into Columbine High School in Jefferson County, Colorado. The two seniors had murdered 13 people, injured over 21 individuals with various firearms, including semi-automatic weapons and shotguns. It's been almost 20 years. Nothing has changed. We still have school shootings. They're going to continue to happen, and that's not going to change unless we do something about it. In an ongoing Washington Post analysis, they found that more than 150,000 students attending at least over 170 schools across the nation have experienced at least one shooting or multiple on campus since the Columbine shooting in 1999. It's 20 years and nothing has changed. And then on average, 2,000 children are shot every day in the United States. And in 2016, there are more youths that were killed than any other year since 2000. And just this week, another shooting has happened in Maryland. We will continue to see this happen across the nation if nothing is going to change. So, when is this going to stop? I want to commend the students at Stoneman Douglas for not backing down against the political system and continue to participate in the political process to continue this national discourse. We need to follow their example to show the legislators that we want change. We demand it. We need to push them to pass legislation that actually changes the system and not as just an appeasement offer to the NRA. Yes. Yes. And for the seniors who are going to be able to vote this year, this is your opportunity to take a change and to make a stance. Vote for candidates that will open their eyes to the ways that the world is changing and listen to our voices. We need to vote for candidates that are going to value the lives and the safety of their constituents, not just some lobbyists in Congress. We need to vote for these candidates that are not afraid to challenge the status quo and push for legislation that will actually save lives. And the shooters at Columbine, they got their guns from gun show loopholes. So I want to stand here and make a point to how we need to pass universal background checks across the nation. The Brady Act in 1998, which was passed, required federal government to conduct a background check on all firearm purchases. However, it doesn't address the gun show loophole. That's really important because we need to address this issue if we have just some sense into affecting change. Start from the basics, and the basic is having a background check. We need to close that loophole, and the most comprehensive approach, like I said before, is having universal background checks on any point of transfer of firearms. And for those who think that this is an infringement on our Second Amendment rights, it's not. We're not advocating for your guns to be taken away. Having universal background checks is just a preventive measure, like having seatbelts in your cars. Right. states in the United States require universal background checks at any point of sales for all sales and transfers of firearms, whether they are purchased from a licensed dealer or from a gun show. Unfortunately, Georgia is not one of them. In Columbus, we can't even pass legislation without the approval of the state legislation. This needs to change. We need to pass some measure that includes background checks or all handgun sales. And a study conducted by Hannah Scherer from from Stanford University from 2009 to 2012, she found that states that required background checks on all handgun sales and permits had 35% less deaths per capita than states that don't have background checks. And that right there shows that to you that background checks are effective. Even if they don't solve 100%, they solve more than what we have currently in the legislation in the United States. Consistently in the past, when there is a shooting or there have been threats made by legislation to pass some gun control reforms, the NRA steps in and Congress loses that spark in the debate. They don't pass anything that's effective because they want to appease the NRA. Enough is enough. They are perceived as powerful, or they're perceived as a powerful organization only because we're not stepping up to the plate. That's why we need to step up and tell them that enough is enough, and we're here to make change happen. Our legislators don't represent the NRA, they represent us. And we hold that power, and this is our movement. Don't let anyone take that away from us. Show them what we're made of, and it's time for actual change. Thank you. And so our next speaker has served in the United States Army Infantry for over 10 years. He's been deployed to combat zones in Bosnia and Kosovo, has also served in the infantry squad leading as a leader during the invasion of Iraq in 2003. He's also conducted hours of training for military operations in environments of combat, also known as close quarters battle, and is certified through the Army in small arms maintenance. Shane has been teaching for over 10 years and is currently the 2017 Muscogee County School District Teacher of the Year. Everyone welcome my 7th grade history teacher, Shane Larkin.
Thank you for granting me this opportunity. Thank you, Mary. It was a pleasure to teach Mary in 7th grade. I see some of my other 7th grade students out here as well. Good morning. What an honor to be a part of such an important cause and movement. Grassroots movements are the heart of change in the United States. Grassroots movements like activists like Ella Baker, Miles Horton, Cesar Chavez, and Septima Clark would be extremely proud of everyone involved in the synergy created by the March of Our Lives movement, amongst others. 190,000 plus is the number of homicides committed with firearms since 2001 in the United States. In that same year, we had a horrible act of terror committed against the U.S. that took the lives of 2,996 people. That changed everything about the United States, from the laws to how airports operate, and basically all aspects of life in the United States changed, and in the world. However, since that time, over 190,000 people have been murdered by firearms, including the mass shootings at schools, churches, and universities. Since that time, we've only made changes to make it easier to get assault-style weapons with high-capacity magazines and loosened gun laws to ridiculous levels. Why no change? After the Parkland shootings, there has been a massive cry from our current administration and lobbyist groups like the NRA to arm teachers. I say no. I have extensive experience in both, and I say no. Our students deserve better. Arming teachers is ineffective and reactionary. If a teacher is armed, it immediately changes the dynamic and interactions among teachers and students. If a person is carrying a weapon, that should be and has to be their primary focus. That is not the job of teachers. Teaching and students is the focus of teachers, not weapons. We need a synergistic approach to this problem. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Synergy is defined as the interaction or the cooperation of one or more organizations, substances, or other agents to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. And that is what we are seeing here, and that is what is going on all over the United States as we speak. All variables must be addressed, and arming teachers should not be one. Of them, sensible gun laws are a must. No to assault-style rifles. No. No to high-capacity magazines. No to fear. Yes to change. Yes to the empowerment of our young people. And not one more. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Kevin Weis. Is it Weis? Okay. Dr. Kevin Weis. He is a child psychologist who comes from a long line of New York City police officers, has worked in prisons, hospitals, and school programs. His specialty is behavioral problems, and he has lived in Georgia for the past 10 years. He believes in recognizing strengths and in changing systems rather than laying blame on one individual or cause. He believes that we all contribute to each other in a positive and in a not so positive way. And oftentimes simple changes can create profound results. Please welcome Dr. Kevin Weis.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. I heard that people can't hear people. You all are beautiful. I was asked to talk, and I was here, and I was thinking about what I was going to say, and I started reading statistics, and I thought, these people don't need to hear statistics. They know statistics. So I am the preacher. Hello, choir. Hello, hello choir. You guys are beautiful. So I'm a psychologist, and what my job is to do is to understand why people do things. So I'm a little anxious because I'm speaking to you guys about trying to understand the other side. If we don't understand the other side, we're not going to be able to affect any real change. They see us as crazies, we see them as crazies. They label us snowflakes, we label them gun nuts. Gun nuts! The back of my shirt says 9 out of 10 children prefer crayons to guns. I do believe that. That's true. But we have to realize that we come from a culture that breeds guns, right? We fought England. We won independence. We felt so strongly we put it in our Constitution. We have had shooting events in the Olympics since 1896. We have more gold medals in shooting events from any other country. We, hello all you guys, we're gun nuts. So understanding that is probably the biggest thing. The signs, and I'm sorry, I love you guys, they're beautiful signs. I feel them, I want them, I have a crazy shirt on, right? we have to be able to understand gun culture to disarm them. We have to use empathy. We have to understand why people want guns. 60% of people are gun owners because they're scared. They want it for self-protection. Everybody here in the audience is scared, right? So what is the main thread here? We are all scared. They're scared of losing their guns. We're scared of them shooting us with their guns. Without empathy, without understanding, you have nothing. So let's march, let's be powerful, but let's remember that love is the answer. Thank you all. Remember to have a conversation and ask more questions. Don't talk so much. Try to understand the other side. If we show empathy, they show empathy. Love is the answer. Thank you very much. I'm introducing the next person, who is the youngest of 5 children. Her oldest brother was a victim of firearm suicide in 2015. She will give a personal account of the event, then we'll discuss the importance of addressing both homicide and suicide in gun law reform. Please give her your undivided attention. It is an audio.
Guys, this one is on audio, and the reason for that is just because she couldn't get through it here in person. She said she thought she would try, but she just could not do it. So it is on audio, and I do want to make sure that I let you know that it is very upsetting. Okay, so I want you all to know that before it's played. Okay, it is very upsetting.
I was leaving for a long weekend of fun and musical recitals in Winston-Salem on Thursday, April 23rd. Long weekend of fun and musical recitals in Winston-Salem on Thursday, April 23rd, 2015. The marathon of Holy Week and Easter church music was over, as was a recital with a colleague at Tuskegee University. I was going to see friends and 2 recitals at my alma mater and couldn't wait to get on the road. I-85 North came to a standstill in South Carolina, so I called John, my brother, also an organist, to tell him how the recital went. He was monotone in his responses, and I asked how his depression was. He had been struggling for months, but didn't sound significantly different. We hung up, and I continued my journey north. I arrived in Winston-Salem, had dinner with a friend, then surprised my undergraduate piano professor during a rehearsal for her Friday night recital. I checked my phone and saw a text from my brother. Call when you get a chance. I got back to my hotel room and gave him a ring. John is dead. He shot himself late this afternoon. And Mary, our sister-in-law, is in the hospital with a heart attack. I had never experienced total disbelief, but here I was, in a state of disbelief. What happened? How did you find out? Who else in the family knows? What can I do to help? I peppered my brother with questions. He would call our other brother and sister. I would call our aunt in the morning. Back in Auburn, my husband would visit my dad in the morning, and I would call to tell my dad. I also would call the police and find a cleanup company. I finally fell asleep and woke up in the morning, full of excitement for about 15 seconds. Then I remembered that John was dead. I called my aunt, then my dad. It sounds cliche, but a parent really shouldn't have to hear. Dad, John shot himself last night and is dead. My dad said he'd tell my mom right away. About the only good thing about her 12-year journey through Alzheimer's is that she didn't understand a thing. I called the police, who said they'd call back when they were done with the required investigation. Next on my list was to find a cleanup service. I didn't even know what to Google. Medical waste cleanup? Does any commercial cleaner do this stuff? Suicide cleanup? I finally found some numbers to call and was horrified with all the questions asked in order to determine an estimate. Inside or outside? Type of weapon? Any carpet or furniture affected? Approximate size of waste field? It was outside in a lawn chair, with the weapon powerful enough to nearly decapitate and remove most of the face. Waste field. My brother's brain is not waste, damn it. I threw up after that conversation. One of the police officers who responded to the suicide called and said they were done with the investigation. People from the small town police department had cleaned up the site, and the officer didn't think a professional company needed to do anything. My college friends were so wonderfully supportive for the next 2 days, but the solo 7-hour drive back to Auburn was dreadful. The next week was a blur, although the 21-gun salute at my brother's military honors memorial service is burned into my memory. It's been 2 years and 11 months. I don't think about my brother every day, but I do think of him often, and even have millisecond thoughts that I need to call him. And there are violent, random suicide reminders in movies and TV shows. I couldn't manage my school's active shooter training and had to leave because video showed the shooter killing himself. Obviously, the effect of suicide on remaining family can be devastating. My dad still asks me why it happened. He wants a straightforward answer, but there are none. Suicides represent about 2/3 of gun deaths from year to year, yet rarely are mentioned in current discussions of gun violence and gun safety. Gun law reform is important for school safety and public safety in general, but we also need to address firearm suicide.
Our next speaker is MC McCoy. MC McCoy is an 8th grade student in the IB program at Richards Middle School, and she will be a freshman next year at Columbus High School. She's a member of GEMS, which is Girls in Engineering, Math, and Science, and hopes to become a journalist. She was recently a student participant in the school district's Speak Out event. Please welcome MC McCoy.
Wednesday started out as a normal day until my class found out about Maryland and the person who died at their school. Another one of us students had been shot. In gym, the one thing my friends and I discussed was what to do when we get attacked. For the entire period, we talked about how to escape, where to go, who to call, and what to do if there was no way out. No 14-year-old should have to talk about what to do if they are about to die. But that is a discussion we had. That is a discussion millions of children like me have had across America. Enough is enough. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for our lives. We're asking for our most basic right, life. But for some reason, legislators can't realize that. They don't hear our screams, yet somehow they hear the whispers of the NRA. However, last time I checked, the heartbeats of millions of children are more important than dollars in your pocket. Last week, I tried to talk to our representatives. But when the student delegates and I told them our worries, they didn't listen to us. They didn't hear me when I asked them what they were going to do to stop gun violence. They didn't hear me. But they are going to hear me now. They're going to hear me, you, students, teachers, all of us. They are going to hear us. Okay. So, our next speaker is Pat Hugley-Green. Pat Hugley-Green holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Broadcast Communications from Johnson C. Smith University and a Master's degree in Leadership from Tennessee State University, where she graduated with honors. Ms. Green, is committed to the daily operations of the family businesses as a licensed insurance agent at Carolyn Hugley's State Farm Insurance and Chief Administrative Officer at Hugley's Facility Manager Janitorial Service. Ms. Green is involved in numerous volunteer and community service activities, including being involved with the Social Action Committee of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, where she works with Meals on Wheels program, a battered home women's shelter, the House of Mercy, and Friends of Foster Care. Ms. Green was elected to the Muscogee County Board of Education in 2004, and is currently serving her 4th term. She has served as chair of school board and has served in the audit, finance, construction, and property committees during her tenure. Ms. Green is married to firefighter Kevin Green, and they have 2 children, Kevin and Kayla. Please welcome Ms. Pat Hugley.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We have heard a lot of statistics. And one student said it's been 20 years and we're still having the same conversation. But we're going to continue to have these statistics unless we adults get behind our students. And they are leading the way. I want to say that I'm very proud of our students. I'm very proud to represent this whole community on the Muscogee County School Board. But the students are using their voice. And better than that, they understand the power of their vote. They understand that we must engage in this process of politics and change the world. It's no longer a slogan for them, and I'm with the kids. You know, the student kind of touched on it a little bit. The other week, our students engaged our local delegation, our local state legislators, and I'm very proud of them, and I was very proud to witness that. They came up with over 70 questions. And they asked the tough questions. They came up with those questions on their own. They represented their schools, and I'm proud of that. Because we're gonna march in a minute, but you got to put some action with those words. And the next step to marching is engaging in the conversation, being persistent in the process of politics. And that's what we want to encourage them to do. They spoke to their own legislative delegations and asked the tough questions. I'm proud of that. I know people wanted them to march in the streets, and I want them to do that too. And hopefully many of them are here. We'll march today in solidarity all across this country as we march for our lives. I'm proud of our students. Whichever way they choose to make this, to increase this awareness, I support the students. But let me tell you this. The children of Sandy Hook, I had a 4-year-old in pre-K. We started practicing active shooter drills. The worst thing as a mother was for my 4-year-old to tell me they didn't have any place to hide, no closet, so they used their desk. They got their desk all organized so they can hide in case someone came to hurt them. Unacceptable. This recent shooting, you know, it's 2018. It's March 2018, and we've had 20 school shootings already, and it's just March. A day or two after the Parkland school shooting, I got a message, electronic message that the school district has set up. My middle schooler, they were getting ready to practice the active shooter drill. So they didn't want us parents to freak out when we start getting text messages because it was already planned prior to the shooting. Again, I felt this is unacceptable. So I stand with the kids because this is unacceptable that we have to practice active shooter drills like we practice escaping from a fire, like we practice taking cover for the tornadoes. We have to practice active shooter drills. Little small children have to practice hiding, have to practice following the instructions of the adults. Enough is enough. And I'm with the students. But now, the meeting is over. Tomorrow, this march will be over. But students, I encourage you to be persistent because, see, the legislative is on its last few days, the legislative session. Let's get organized, kids, so we can put something meaningful, something specific, something direct in writing so that our Columbus delegation, when they go back next year, will be prepared to make the change that you want to see. You have to be the change that you want to see, and I stand with you. And I want to just end by saying that on behalf of State Representative Carolyn Hugley, and the names are Ken, because that's my sister-in-law, and she couldn't be here either because so many of our citizens are mourning the loss of a great woman and community servant. But she wanted to also tell you that she was proud of you and to be persistent. See, our Columbus delegation, they get it, but it's only 7 of them. We got a whole state that we want you, through your social media networks, your contacts, your relatives, to touch the students in other counties to help us affect change for our entire state. It doesn't matter if Muskogee County is blue and they get it and they're voting for your interests. We have to affect the rest of the delegation, the rest of the legislators in our entire state, and we want you to lead us to do that. We can vote, but we're going to vote for you if you're not able to, if you're not 18. We're going to use your voice through the power of our vote. Again, thank you. The next speaker is Kirsten Robertson. Kirsten is an outspoken millennial photographer, law enforcement officer wife, law nerd, coffee addict, self-described crazy cat lady, and actual concerned citizens. She's concerned about those who feel common sense gun safety reform means losing their Second Amendment rights. She is passionate about the subject because, as an employee of the legal field and the wife of a law enforcement officer, she has seen too many lives ruined by firearms, both as victims and as defendants. Please welcome Kirsten Robertson.
All right.
All right, so I'm like super nervous, so I'll be honest, I'm picturing you all in your underwear. After the events on February 14th in Parkland, I posted this to Facebook. I threw shock out the window and onto the median after Virginia Tech. Sadness chased me in the rearview mirror after Sandy Hook. I ran over confusion, backed over it, and ran over it again after Las Vegas. And after Parkland, I've skidded to a halt, taken the wheels off, sold the rims for booze, and put the car up on blocks in the neighborhood of blinding anger. We don't want your thoughts and prayers. We want action. I'm not some bleeding heart liberal that thinks that all guns should be taken off the streets. I own guns. I'm married to a law enforcement officer, but I can't find it in me to be shocked or saddened anymore. I've become numb, and that's not okay. I'm mad. I've been mad. A lot of us have been mad because we keep asking for something reasonable, and our leaders continue to throw up their hands and say that they can't do anything to staunch this tide of children's blood. But I'm here to tell y'all that it's not because they can't, it's because they won't. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people assume that I'm a bleeding heart liberal that opposes guns of any description. That's not true. I grew up in the South. I got my gun permit shortly after turning 21. More thorough background checks don't scare me, and neither do training courses. When I lived in Germany, my boss had to go through a lengthy process in education courses just in order to obtain a firearm. He had to obtain insurance, have a place on his property to store his weapon, and obtain a separate permit to carry it in public. Meanwhile, really all I had to do when I got back home was turn 21. I was mildly appalled at how easy it was. I was essentially taken at my word when asked if I had any mental illnesses. I wasn't even given enough time to say, I'm mentally fit as long as you don't ask my ex-husband. We're really not asking for much. When people mock us by saying, and I looked this up not long ago, about 35,000 people die from automobile accidents, are we going to ban cars? Well, no. But we have regulated them, haven't we? You have to pass the test to drive, don't you? And that privilege is taken away if you're irresponsible with it, isn't it? I also approach the topic from a unique perspective, considering I'm the wife of a law enforcement officer. From what I've observed, the vast majority of officers are not in favor of stricter gun laws, but I frequently say that I'm married to a unicorn, or Bigfoot, depending on how loud he snores. He's a law enforcement officer that grew up in rural Alabama, did a 5-year stint in the military, and yet he's still pretty left of center. His ability to explain guns and gun laws and how they could and should change has really opened my eyes. After hearing somebody say, nobody needs a semi-automatic weapon, I had questions, because he keeps a .40 caliber pistol in our bedroom, and I don't feel threatened by that, quite frankly. So I asked, what's the difference between his pistol and an assault rifle? Do they fire at the same rate? Why are they the weapon of choice for mass shooters? Could the same damage be done with his pistol? He explained in perfect detail that long rifles are more accurate than a pistol. Pistols serve a purpose for personal protection. Assault rifles are easily reloaded, like way too easily. You can't even really make the argument that they're used for hunting, because if you need that many rounds to take down a game, your target practice needs work. Wow. Additionally, I have a 4-year degree in criminal justice as well as a paralegal certification. I know a little bit about the law. So when it comes to basic constitutional rights, I respect them. But I also read them thoroughly. The Second Amendment states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. When this was written, towns were smaller, firearms were muskets in which rounds were loaded one by one, not 30 rounds at once, and the town elders could get together and say, Cletus seems a little off. I don't think Cletus should have a musket. Give him a slingshot and a bag of rocks. He's still armed, but yeah. The Second Amendment never says anything about firearms, just arms. It also says well-regulated. I'm not sure what the NRA thinks well-regulated means, but to me it means education, training, tests, and licenses. And it's not as if we haven't applied some common sense to the rest of the Bill of Rights. I can't threaten to kill you without being arrested, but I still have freedom of speech per the First Amendment. Per the Fourth Amendment, we have the right against unreasonable searches and seizures, with the key word being unreasonable. All that we are asking is that we treat the Second Amendment with some common sense and the realization that these tools were made for the purpose of ending human life with terrifying efficiency. I'm a law enforcement officer's wife, a gun owner, a constitutionalist, and more importantly, a member of your community, and I'm here to demand common sense gun reform now. And to these kids that started this revolution that we millennials could barely get off the ground, we see you. Come back. We see you. We're here for you. We're so proud of you. You are just like your country. You're young, scrappy, and hungry, and you're not throwing away your shot.
All right, guys, we've got one more speaker before we start our march. So I wanted to say, can you kind of maybe start gathering in if you strayed out a little bit? Just got one more, and then we're going to give you the marching instructions. So I just wanted you to get ready for that. Our next speaker is E.C. Carstens. E.C. Carstens is a gun owner, a progressive, and a wife and mom. E.C.'s family experienced a traumatic incident with a gun, and even though she is an introvert by nature, she strongly believes in servant leadership and feels that she has to talk today, even though it's scary to stand in front of people in her hometown and do so. Let's calm her nerves and make her feel welcome.
So Indivisible of Columbus, their motto is justice through action. And as a progressive movement, we strive to be responsible for the change we seek. The very definition of progressivism is the support of the improvement of society by reform and the belief that social advances are vital to the human condition. When Carolyn asked me a few months ago to lead the gun reform initiative for Indivisible of Columbus, I couldn't. How could I? I'm a gun owner. And then Parkland happened. And then a child in Ohio kills himself in the bathroom at his school instead of committing the massacre he had planned. And then in Maryland, a high school boy shoots two of his classmates. And then closer to home, Cortland Arrington is shot to death in a Birmingham, Alabama high school by a friend showing off a gun. So when asked if I would speak today, I said yes. I grew up around guns, knew as a child not to touch them. I was taught how to shoot, how to take a gun apart, how to clean it, how to assume always that any gun was loaded. That a gun in my possession could be taken away from me and used against me, to kill me. To never point a gun at anyone or anything unless I was going to pull the trigger. In our family, like many children growing up in the South and elsewhere, time with my father was spent in the woods, hunting for food, target shooting, camping, learning how to drive on dirt roads. Waking up in the cold, the dark pre-dawn drive, the hushed walk in the woods, the climb into the tree, and then to watch the sunrise from a stand. To many, this is gun culture. The memories of childhood, the traditions that parents want to pass to their children. But I can also tell you I have seen firsthand the damage a bullet could do to the human body, to someone's life, to a family, to my family. In March of 2001, a family member was shot in the torso at close range. Several organs were hit, the spleen shattered and removed, a kidney nicked and nearly lost, the colon badly damaged, feet of intestines shredded beyond repair, the stomach, the liver both pierced. The bullet missed the heart by millimeters, and a fragment ended nestled just next to the spine. To see my loved one's battered body lying in a hospital bed, arms and legs tied down so they couldn't move, so they couldn't hurt themselves further, their lips chapped, their mouth puckering for water, them quietly begging me for a Dr. Pepper, just a sip. Not being able to do anything for them, just apply and reapply chapstick again and again. Nothing to do but rub their cramping arms, legs, and feet, hearing their shallow breath, their moans. Thankfully, they recovered. Time has passed between then and now, but the scars remain. The scars are still painful. And all from a moment in time with a gun, the arrogance of a friend thinking everything would be okay, that he had it covered. Just one bullet, a last-minute realization that a mistake had been made, a desperate call to 911, and 6 pints of blood on the floor. We never talked about it. The stigma, you understand. I honestly can't say that my family was ever okay again. But it's okay for me, for others, to find the intersectionality between gun ownership and gun reform. It is okay to want every person in every county and every state to have the same background check for gun ownership and concealed carry. It is okay to want a person with a gun to have training like juveniles do before obtaining a hunting license. It is okay to reasonably expect to send your child to school, to go to church, a concert, to walk down the street, or to play in the park and be safe. It is okay to demand laws that address mental illness, physical wellness, and gun safety. It is okay for a victim of domestic violence, after going through the process of obtaining a restraining order, to not live in fear knowing their partner has a gun. It is okay to ask our elected leaders to fund the study of gun violence, to ban bump stocks and high-capacity magazines. It is okay to not want our teachers armed.
Yes.
And it's okay to seek to keep guns out of the hands of those that shouldn't have them. And it's okay to fight to keep bullets out of the bodies of our children by saying, never again.
Okay, we are going to get started lining up to march, and what we want to do is, if you are a group with a banner, we're going to have this banner out